You and Chris are going to be in here talking about God knows what.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Retro Show podcast. I'm your host, Butch Renfro, and I am joined, as always, by Mr. Christopher Brown Curtis.
I love this crowd, man.
I know you do.
I usually just crap when I clap.
Well, you just took it to a lot darker place, man. This is the Retro Show. We are glad that you have decided to join us. We are on the road today. Actually, we are at the Flashback Pinball Arcade in Conway, Arkansas. You can find out all about them at flashbackpinballarcade.com.
Dude, looking around in here, this place is awesome.
It is like I'm like a kid in a candy store, man.
Candyland.
I'm telling you, it is fantastic, guys. We are so excited for today's episode. I want you to all welcome to the podcast, Mr. Butch Patrick.
You know, we have two Butches today, so I'm thinking...
I don't know if it's ever been done.
For simplicity, why don't I be Butch Patrick today, my alter ego? And it'll be Butch and Batch.
Well, you can still be Butch, and everybody else can refer to me as El Guapo.
Okay.
So we can do that.
How you doing, guys?
But for those of you who do not know, Butch is maybe best known to some of you as Eddie Munster on a little television show called The Munsters.
Yeah, for a little 2-year show, it's really created quite a following in not only in America but globally. It's a very popular show. Looking over at Munster pinball machines, and Rob Zombie just did a Munster movie, and over the last 60 years, it's been very good to me.
Yeah, well, fantastic, man. I really appreciate you coming. I know this is the time of year that you're out and about, and just to let everybody know, you can catch Butch probably over most of the country during the course of a year.
Yeah, I'm on the road quite a bit. For all your listeners, if they want to write this down, it's kind of hard to remember. Munsters.com. You can go to that site, and that will lead you to all my schedules.
Yeah, that is Munsters, and you got to spell it like the TV show, folks.
Yes.
But yeah, Butch is going to be with us today, and actually, Butch, you are the topic of the show today. So this is actually the first time we've done like an interview. And yeah, I used to do them all the time in radio, but it's been 30 years. Oh, man.
So this is interesting. It's a Flashback Arcade, shows from the 60s. That's the old saying, if you remember the 60s, you weren't there.
You weren't there.
That's true.
So I guess my first question, from one Butch
to
another Butch, I'm pretty sure that's not the name on your birth certificate. I know it's not mine.
I've never met a Butch that they actually put their name down as at birth. It's always a nickname. My grandmother gave me mine the day I was born. My real name is Patrick. And they came up with a stage name for me, Butch Patrick. And the rest is history.
Yeah, I got mine at 3 days, so yeah, it stuck with me. I didn't even know that was not my real name until I was like 8 years old, and I was like, "What do you mean?"
So you like live by Butch Patrick now. I mean, that's it.
Well, it's...
I mean, not legally, but
no,
to everybody.
It's a legal AKA, but it's when you get on airplanes and, passports and stuff, you have to be. And it's to add even more to it, I was actually born Patrick Allen Caples, and then when my mom remarried and my sister was born to Dave Lilly, he adopted me. So then my real name is Patrick Allen Lilly, but I went to school with my mom's third husband, the baseball player, whose last name was Hunt, and I thought that was a cooler last name than Lilly. Silly Lilly. So I went with Ken Hunt because he was a ball player, so I went to school as Patrick Hunt.
So who did he play for?
He came up with the Yankees, him and Roger Maris.
Nice.
He went to the Angels in the expansion. He wound up with the Washington Senators, even though they were like a last-place team. They had Gil Hodges. They had Frank Howard. They had, Claude Osteen. They had some good players. But he wanted to put the Senators.
Well, the reason I asked that question is my son, huge baseball player, huge baseball fan. He'll look all this stuff up.
Yeah, Kenny's buried. He's actually buried next to Roger Maris. They were lifelong buddies from Grand Forks. They're buried in Fargo. He was Mickey Mantle's roommate. He was a great ball player. Unfortunately, he injured his shoulder during a game and never really recovered his throwing arm. And that was pretty much, he was a five-year player.
So you got that signed Mickey Mantle ball?
No, that's the sign. I had a signed Mickey Mantle baseball glove that I loaned to a kid at Little League, and he never gave it back.
Oh, I'd hunt him down now.
Gosh.
So where did you grow up?
I was born in Inglewood, California. Grew up in a city called Gardena. It's an area of Los Angeles called the South Bay, about 25 miles from the studios from Hollywood.
Oh, okay. And so that leads me into this. How did you get into acting?
When my sister was born, she was a very attractive little girl with a lot of hair, a lot of curly hair, and someone thought she'd be perfect for print modeling. And that appointment was made, and I went along for the ride that day. I was like 7, she was like 3. And after they took pictures of her, the gentleman's name was Amos Carr, and he was like the go-to child photographer in Hollywood. And he took a picture of me, and he put it in his window because he just kind of liked the look. And a producer and a director were walking by a few weeks later casting a movie, and they still hadn't found Eddie Albert and Jane Wyatt's youngest son. So they asked where they could find that face. And the guy told him, and they tracked me down. And Mary Grady had just opened up her the world's first child-only talent agency.
Oh, wow!
Her son was Robbie, Don Grady on My Three Sons.
Okay.
And I was her first client after that.
Wow, fantastic!
So I have a question, real quick, because I don't know what it is. What is print modeling? What is that?
Magazines.
Okay. Okay, I got you now.
Yeah,
now I'm with
print
you.
modeling.
Yeah. Now I'm with you.
So what were some of the shows you were in before you landed at like?
Ooh, I should have brought my credit list, but okay. I did.
I have a few
series before. I did a few episodes of General Hospital when it first came on the air. I did the last year of The Real McCoys. I did the Munsters. I did 3 years worth of My Three Sons, 9 episodes.
Oh, okay.
Reoccurring regular. Then I did Lidsville in 1971.
Yeah.
The summer of '71 was Sid Marty Kroffts' 3rd series. Those were the series, but in between I did 27 movies, about 50 or 60 commercials. I really can't remember how many commercials. A lot of cereal commercials, a lot of toy commercials. But I did 27 movies.
Oh, wow.
Which now, they weren't starring roles, but you were still working with the likes of Burt Lancaster and Judy Garland and Sidney Poitier and some really quality people.
Man. How did you actually land the role of Eddie Munster?
When my mom, 2 things happened. My stepdad got traded to the Washington Senators. My 2 younger brothers were toddlers, so they moved to Washington, D.C., and I went to live with my grandmother in Illinois. And during that time, they cast the role of Eddie Munster. First, they offered it to Bill Mooney, who turned it down for whatever reasons. Then they hired a kid named Happy Durman for the pilot. The pilot was shown to the networks, and they said, we like the pilot, but we want to change the mom and we want to change the kid. And then Mary Grady caught wind of that. She says, I've got the perfect kid for you. And they go, well, we've looked at every kid in Hollywood. She goes, that's the problem. He's not in Hollywood. He's in Illinois. And she convinced them to fly me out for a screen test with Yvonne DiCarlo. They hired Yvonne DiCarlo, who was a big movie star, to come into television. I went to the studio. They basically said, report to work, don't go home. And I go, I don't really have a home right now because my home is in Washington, D.C. So I moved in with my uncle, and we hired a woman to take me to work every day. We
were talking about, we recently did a show about our favorite John Wayne movies, and we were talking about McClintock.
McClintock, sure.
Talked about Yvonne DiCarlo extensively in there. And I'm going to tell you, okay, so like as a kid, when I'm watching the Munsters, man, I thought that Marilyn was just pretty. But now I look and I see it, it's like, Yvonne DiCarlo was smoking.
Yeah,
I mean, oh my gosh!
In her heyday, she was Jean Lola Brigida, Ava Gardner, Sophia Loren. She was, she was one of the beauties in Hollywood.
Something else that I noticed too when I was doing a little bit of research. Yeah, I actually put a little bit of work into this one. So yeah, is that Al Lewis, who played Grandpa Munster, was actually a year younger than Yvonne DiCarlo.
Yep.
And so he played older, obviously.
He looked older. Yeah, he actually looked. It's funny, too, because even after he took his makeup off, he still looked like Grandpa. It was like one of those things. But yeah, that was a few other things. Fred and Al were both very good, solid comedy team.
Right.
They came from Car 54, which was a huge, funny show out of New York. And it was funny because we had a little bit of everything. We had the movie star coming into TV. We had New York actors coming to Hollywood. We had a Marilyn that left the show after 13 episodes and was replaced by another Marilyn that was done so well, seamlessly, that a lot of people didn't even
notice.
Not like the bewitched switch of
Darren's,
Dick York to Dick Sargent. It was like, I want the other one back. I don't nothing against Dick Sargent, but I like Dick York.
Yeah, those early ones that he was in. That was,
and then me.
Yeah, and then
George Barris cars and cool special effects and great makeup.
So during this time, what was school like?
School's always the same in Hollywood. You got to go 3 hours a day on the set.
Yeah.
They supply a teacher. They're called a welfare worker to not only teach you to make sure that you don't do anything dangerous and that you get your hour lunch and you get your hour recreation. And 3 hours. 3 hour school is mandatory. If you don't get your 3 hours in, they pull the plug on the thing. They won't let you work.
Wow. Okay.
But they do break it into as long as you're in school for 20 minutes, that counts. If you're only there 15 minutes, that's a lost 15 minutes. So you got to come back and do it again.
Oh, wow.
Were you particularly close with any of the other cast members, or that you?
Yeah, I mean, they all had kids about my age. They all kind of knew the situation that my family was back east, and this was kind of one of those times where my TV family actually was. I was spending more time with them than my real family, but we all got along wonderfully.
Great, man, that's good to hear. This is just the part of me that's been in TV for years has to know, because seeing people who do makeup and stuff. You shot a couple of movies in color. Did you guys change the makeup up for a black and white show? Did they change the coloration or anything like that for the movies that were shot in color?
Yes, they upped it a lot. I only did Munster Go Home. I did a cameo with Al Lewis and Pat Priest and Yvonne DiCarlo in the Edward Herman Here Come the Munsters movie. I believe it was in 1993.
Yeah.
We did that. But yes, when it was color, they absolutely livened it up a tad, quite a bit.
Just a fantastic show. We grew up. I know that that they would show all of the great shows from the '60s during the '70s.
Well, it was interesting because back in the day, every studio in the '30s, '40s, '50s, they all had sort of a theme that they were good at, and Universal happened to be the monster studio.
Right.
20th was disaster movies, and one was a western, and MGM was musicals, but they all had something. But Universal was the go-to monster studio, and they utilized a lot of those sets and a lot of that knowledge and makeup knowledge into the Munsters. So you had this really cool studio with this pedigree, taking Leave It to Beaver producers, mushing them into a friendly family unit, because you never thought of Herman as anything but friendly Fred, Herman Munster. You never thought of him as Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Right.
And it worked. It was very crazy on paper. It looked like, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But when it got together, it was like magic.
Yeah, and to be able to put scary makeup on somebody, that's just a testament to Fred, I think, being able to act his way into this lovable patriarch role.
Well, luckily for me, what happened was they kind of, as the scripts started going, and they saw that I could handle dialogue, and they saw that Herman and Eddie had this dynamic where I always volunteered him, and he never wanted to disappoint me, and he would do anything for his son, and I became like the teacher, and he became the student, and then it was like we would have these, he'd get on his knees, I'd be looking at him eye to eye, and we'd have these conversations where he was a very big childlike person, and I was kind of like a little adult-like kid. Right. And it worked really well, which allowed me to have a lot more dialogue, which they actually wrote several scripts featuring Eddie, which was good, because a lot of times kids don't get that in series.
And it doesn't matter what you see him in. I always see Eddie Munster.
No, he's a quality guy. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, not Eddie Munster, but Herman.
No, Herman,
Munster.
Fred Gwynn.
Yeah.
Fred Gwynn was a super talent.
Oh man, one of the last roles I guess he did was My Cousin Benny, and that courtroom scene just.
Great movie. And another thing is, they allowed him to sing. He played guitar. He sang he sketched. There's a couple where he was drawing. He did Broadway. He was Harvard Hasty Pudding Club. He was, old school blue blood. Al Lewis, on the other hand, was vaudeville. Yeah. Circus folk type. But the two of them together, they complemented each other so well that some of their comedy routines were gold.
And we're going to stop right here and take a break, but we're going to be right back. This is The Retro Show with Butch and Chris. Hey guys, it's Butch from The Retro Show. If you would like to support our podcast, well, that's pretty simple to do. You go to retroshow.net and click on Support the Podcast. It's right up there in the menu. You can't miss it. And then you can read about how you can be a part of our Producers Club. And speaking of which, one of the perks you get from being in our Producers Club is that you get a shout out. So here we go. First of all, we have E.M., Bradford Mason, and Tanya Highland. Those are our producers who donate $3 a month to the support of the Retro Show. $3 a month. I mean, we're talking like less than a cup of coffee at like a big chain coffee place. That place where you walk into and you give them your order and then they don't write your name down on the cup correctly. And with a name like Butch, sometimes it turns out bad. But listen, we love you guys, and the best way you can support us is to listen.
But if you'd like to do a little extra, head to retroshow.net and click on Support the Podcast. Thank you. We appreciate it.
And now back to the Retro Show with Butch and Chris. So now I kind of want to switch, kind of going forward a little bit to the 70s there. So how did you land the role on Lidsville? Did you audition for the Krofft brothers? Did they want you right away?
They wanted me, and I actually turned them down several times. I just didn't. I was, you're a 17-year-old kid, and what had happened is I had just completed a movie in Brazil that was supposed to become Oscar-worthy and supporting actor nominations, and I was going to elevate myself out of television into movie stardom.
Right.
And I was looking forward to that. Well, the producer, writer, director of the movie had a horrible Hollywood divorce with his wife, Rhonda Fleming. And in the divorce, she got half the rights to the movie. And he was so mad that he shelved it. And it never saw the light of day. And the combination of that falling flat and then being offered this, what I thought was a kiddie show.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think I'm going to be doing much acting anymore. So I turned it down several times. And finally, Marty asked me to please just come out and see what we do.
Yeah.
And I go, okay. And then Sid, who I really took a liking to because he had a Corvette and he was cooler. And, but he took me to lunch one day and explained to me what was going to be happening. So when I went back to the studio, I saw this picture of the girl from the Bugaloos, Caroline Ellis.
Yeah.
A real cutie. So I go, if I do this show, is there any chance that she might be hanging around? And he goes, oh, yeah, she shows up all the time. Now, little did I know she was in Europe. She never once came over. But he told me what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I cut my hair from here, like Robert Plant length, up to about shoulder length, a tolerable length for the show. And 11 weeks later, I did it. But mainly the Cowsills at school told me, never turn down work. It's a Saturday morning show. Most of your friends won't even be awake to watch it. Just take the money and run.
Yeah.
But so, you had Billy Hayes with you in that.
Billy Hayes, Charles, and a lot of the little people were friends of mine because they used to be my stand-ins when I was a kid actor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
they don't, when you're a kid growing up, they always use little people as your stand-ins.
Right.
They'll never put another kid in for another kid. It's like psychological issues. So as I grew up, depending on what size I was in age, I had the little people, like Felix Silla was about this tall. And then we get up here, there's another one about this tall and this tall and this tall. And Sharon Baird, who was Roger Rabbit, she was a Mouseketeer. She was about 4'10", so she was the tall end of the little people range. But it was great.
Oh, it's fantastic. So what happened after, like during the 70s?
Well, let's see.
Never mind.
It's like what did Bugs Bunny took a left at the Albuquerque? Except, let me think about this. It was 1969 and 1970. All hell was breaking loose. Woodstock, rock and roll, the counterculture, peace, love, Haight-Ashbury, you name it. I was up in Frisco doing the Phantom Toll Booth with Chuck Jones, 1968. And all I wanted to do was go party with the rock stars.
You know, when you're that age.
Everybody in the country was doing it, and it looked exciting, and I had that gene in me, and I wanted to do it, and I did it.
Yeah, and you did it.
And the funny thing about being in Hollywood, and you have a lot of people that want to be your friend, and they want to offer you stuff, and you have access to stuff, and I had a lot of money as a kid, and I had cool cars and hot girlfriends, and I lived at the beach, and I surfed, and I had a wonderful, wonderful late teens, early 20s, but when the money ran out, and by the time I came to my senses, if you're not active in Hollywood all the time, you kind of get left behind. And there was two things. I burned a few bridges, but mostly I just never wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be a race car driver.
Yeah.
So I didn't really have a love of it. I wasn't missing it. It wasn't calling to me. But I had to figure out a way to make a living. So I hustled cars. I worked in the gaming industry since my dad owned a casino. But odd job, small businesses, this and that.
We mentioned cars now, and that leads me into what you're doing these days. And so let's talk about, so you have two replicas of the...
Yeah, I had two Chevy. I bought a pair from a guy with his trailer, his truck, the whole 9 yards about 10 years ago. Then as I was doing it, I got tired of towing this 34-foot trailer, so I downsized to a 20-foot trailer with one car, which is my Dragula.
Right.
An accurate one. I sold my other two. They were Chevy powered. Or the original George Barris cars were 289 Ford Cobras. So this one is very accurate, and I'm having my coach replaced, and it will be done in October.
Oh, wow.
And it'll be accurate, but I'm only going to carry either the coach or the Dragula and my Harley, one or the two. It's going to be the Dragula and the bike or the coach. I'm not going to ever go back to, or maybe get another trailer and have somebody drive the second trailer.
Right.
But I do a lot of automotive events. I'm a member of a car club up in New Jersey called Dead Man's Curve. I'm kind of a gearhead. I like cars, and it's funny because when I first came into Conway, one of the reasons we'll get to that I'm sure, but one of the things was the gentleman that brought me here, who were at his arcade. He likes cars, and we have a lot of things in common. So we hit it off, and here I am.
Well, somebody needs to be his friend.
You're
doing God's work.
You got to remember too. Well, another thing is not only imagine this before I turned 16. My stepdad's a ball player, so when I'm not at the studio, I'm going to the ballpark. Who doesn't want to go to the ballpark early and shag flies in the stands and get to know every player in the American League? That I got to do because Eddie Munster, the Munsters were popular, and then baseball players are just big kids anyway.
Yeah.
So that was very cool. But on the side from that, I was going to the drag strip with Jack Christman, who invented the funny car, and this is like early in the Prudhomme and McEwen and all the early funny car years. I'm at Lions Drag Strip, Irwindale, OCIR, Bakersfield, doing the drag racing thing. So that led me into my teen years. So it was just wonderful from about 14 to 21. It was like the best.
Wow. That's fantastic. Chris, you got anything you need to ask?
Man, you're covering it, dude.
All right.
I'm in awe.
Oh, okay.
I mean, this your life is awesome to listen to.
I had a very, very, very. I've been very blessed, and I have a great family and great brothers and sisters and stuff. I'm just very lucky.
So you're now headquartered in Arkansas.
Yeah, it's funny. I was doing something. I came by a few years ago, right before the pandemic, because Keller had bought a Munsters pinball machine, and I was touring with the Stearns Pinball Company to introduce the machine around the country. So I had both my cars on display. They had surrounded me with like 20 pinball machines, and they had this one girl with her big hair and had Munsters on, and it was very cool. So I had a wonderful time, and then the pandemic came to a screeching halt for everything. And by the time the pandemic was over, I had gotten away from a relationship I was in. I separated that, so I'm on my own, and I decided to reevaluate things. And I was going to go work up at a theme park outside of Indianapolis. That didn't happen. And I called Keller, and I said, damn, I'm going to be, I didn't book anything this summer. He goes, well, it's Toad Suck Days. Come on down and visit, and we'll talk about it. So this is like 4 years after my first visit, so I came back down, and we started talking about stuff, and one thing led to another, and I just started using Conway as my base of operations because I was based out of northern Missouri, driving around the country, and that's why I just moved it down about 600 miles.
Yeah.
But this city has I like small towns. It's not a small town, but it has a small town feel.
Right.
It's got all the amenities of a city. It's close to Little Rock. I used to have to drive 2.5 hours to an airport. Yeah. So I got everything I'm looking for here, and it also is affordable.
Yeah,
it's got a lot of good things going for it. People are very nice, and I'm very happy here.
Well, this town has changed so much since Keller and I graduated high school together.
You mentioned something about
that, it's so different now than it was. I tell people all the time, when we were in high school, I couldn't, and he could too, walk in any place in town and tell you something good or bad about everybody in the place.
Yeah.
And now I walk in a place and not know anybody.
Well, but I can understand that definitely. In the two towns I lived with, my grandmother was both 5,000 people in the 5th grade and the 8th grade. So I had that good feel of that town. I actually bought my grandma's old house to save it. And that's what I sold recently and when I came down here. But to me, being from Los Angeles, this has a small town feel.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
So I'm right where I want to be.
I will make sure I never complain about traffic around you.
Oh my God, yeah. I drive to the airport through Little Rock traffic. Woo.
Yeah.
3 minutes later, you're
over the bridge and you're fine.
It's over.
It's after the rage, though.
Yeah.
But, listen, folks, if you want to find out more about what Butch is up to, you can go to munsters.com, munsters.com. Several on-set photos there that I noticed. I creeped around your website today just to see what's out there. And where can they find you, like social media?
I have Instagram that is the real Butch Patrick, __. I don't use it much. I'm not really a big gram person. I have a Twitter account, BP Munster. I don't use that very much either. I'm more of a Facebook guy.
Yeah.
But mostly if they just go to munsters.com, I get emails. The old-fashioned Gmail.
The old Gmail. Mm-hmm. The old Gmail stuff.
I tell you, just growing up, your show, The Munsters Show, was a big part of our life growing up. I mean, it was. I put it in the same category with the Beverly Hillbillies, I Dream of Jeannie.
Andy.
Huh? Andy Griffith.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Gomer Pyle, USMC.
Yeah. It's
something we always watch.
It's funny when I have a book called Munster Memories, and the book is literally wrote itself from people coming to the table to come to introduce themselves and telling me how much this show meant to them or their grandma or their uncle or somebody in the family that when they were growing up that this was part of a very important part of their routine.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's like a feel good moment. Like how can you not enjoy going out and doing that over and over and over again when all people are coming up are doing is sharing a positive energy. And in this day and age, the way things are, that's a pretty unusual situation to be part of. And I'm very blessed out of it. But that's how the book got written, was people sharing stories.
Oh, that's really
and all
cool.
I did was put it together.
Great.
Really, really cool.
And where can they find this book?
Munsters.com.
Munsters. See there? Plug. Well, Butch, man, I cannot thank you enough for agreeing to come out. Like I said, I know you're a busy man. This is probably a busy time of year, but we're going to close out with you with 20 questions. Okay? And you will answer these as quickly as you can. Okay? Ever had a crush on a co-star?
Yes.
Okay.
Beverly Owen.
Who would win in a fight, Dracula or the Wolfman?
If Wolfman got a hold of him, Wolfman.
Beatles, Stones, or the Who?
Beatles.
Do you have a secret talent?
A secret what?
A secret talent that nobody knows about.
Talent.
Well, if he tells it, it's not going to be a secret
See,
anymore.
there you go.
I used to be able to juggle, but I haven't tried lately.
I bet you still can. It's like riding a bike.
The strangest thing you've ever eaten?
Squid, I guess.
Okay. Does pineapple belong on a pizza?
Absolutely.
Do people ever call you Bruce instead of Butch?
All the time.
All the time. In the Battle of Captain Crunches, peanut butter or crunch berries?
Crunch berries.
Name a movie that scared you as a child.
The Birds.
Best Van Halen singer?
Song?
No, best Van Halen singer, Sammy or Dave?
Oh, Sammy.
Favorite toy as a child?
Very favorite toy as a child. Etch-a-Sketch.
Favorite smell?
Smell? Favorite smell?
Favorite smell?
Bacon.
Toilet paper, over or under?
Over.
Hamburgers or hot dogs?
Hot dogs.
What was the make and model of your first car?
69 Mach 1.
Oh, is Keller a good golfer?
Miniature or pro? Miniature, he's killer.
Dogs or cats?
Both.
Ginger or Marianne?
Oh, Marianne.
Yeah, there you go. Coke or Pepsi?
Pepsi.
Okay, and I got to close it out with Addams Family or the Munsters.
Oh, the Munsters, of course. We were. I tell people if they ever get it mixed up, listen, it's very easy. We were people who looked like monsters, and the Addams Family were monsters who looked like people.
That's pretty good right there, dude. I cannot thank you enough, Butch, for being on the show today.
Absolutely.
You're welcome.
I've been telling people they work all day. Everybody I talk to, hey man, we're interviewing Eddie Munster.
Guys, you can find us online, retroshow.net. We got everything there. Just go check it out. All the socials, everything. Thank you for listening. I love all of you. I like some of you.
AMF, guys.